Welcome to my channel and this video about movie Don't Look Up. Well, we'll not talk about the movie itself as an object of art, but we'll talk about science background of that movie. It's quite a good movie and many who watched it enjoyed it, and the many questions arose. Is it really something like that can happen? Before we start talk about the movie itself, I just warn you that I'm going to talk about specific events in the movie, so if you haven't seen it and you don't want any spoilers, please stop watching this video right now and watch it after you watch original movie. Otherwise, I'll talk about just the events that happen in this movie, in particular the impact. They destroyed the life on the whole Earth, supposedly, as I understand from the end of the movie. And I will talk about these events in the real life, what we know already had happened on our planet before, why, how probable that something like that is going to happen with us in modern days. And we're trying to just look at how they depict it in the movie and if it's from the science point of view can happen with us. So I already said that there will be spoilers and I already named some, so please, if you don't want to know what's going to happen, watch first the movie and then this video. Before we start talking about the movie, just to remind you, please subscribe to my channel and like my videos, maybe share them with your friends so more people can join us in our curiosity about our planet, solar system and universe. So let's just start with a simple question. Is there something like that can happen that happened in the movie? In the movie, just a brief reminder, spoilers, the comet was discovered by some scientists, and a scientist took it to all the important agencies, to the president, and they're trying to warn that this comet is quite huge, we didn't know about it before, and it's coming towards the Earth directly. It's gonna strike somewhere around, as I understand, Pacific Ocean, and this type of comets actually supposed to destroy everything on the planet. Well, at least the civilization. So let's talk about first point. Is this actually can happen, that the comet can be discovered accidentally like that? And they had about 6 months, as I understand, 6 months to introduce something like that before it's hit the Earth, and they start putting the plan together how to maybe redirect this comet or blow it up or do something else. So first we should talk about the history of the Earth. Geological history of Earth told us a lot about what's happened with the life on our planet. So we can see directly in the fossils, which we find in the rocks all around our planet. We can see the change of the life, and we can see the periods when there was a big mass extinctions, which some of them could be related to the impact. Impact, it's when asteroid, comet or meteorites, whatever you call them, hit the Earth and cause some animals die or all animals die, or they cause some change on the planet that can cause eventually animals to extinct. In reality, we can say that we can only see the fossils that preserved in the rocks to understand the past of the life on our planet. We can for sure talk about only for last billion years on our planet, history of life, because everything smaller, like bacteria, viruses and so on, very small organisms, they don't create much fossils and we cannot talk about it. Also that because we have plate tectonics and high rates of erosion on our planet, more we go into the past, the less we know what's happened on our planet. But nevertheless, we can definitely say that in the past, and I'm talking about beginning of our solar system formation, we had a lot of impacts. We have a lot of asteroids, comets, meteorites, whatever you call them, falling down on our planet, on the moon, all around. And in fact, the way we got our moon, it's as well recently been accepted by scientists that it's the way when two bodies hit each other, so our Earth and some other planet, and the moon was created from the rubble. We know in the past there was a lot of bombarding of our planet and the moon, and we know that actually not studying so much of the deposits on our Earth, because as you know we have plate tectonics, so all the crusts being destroyed recycled due to the plate tectonics, and we have some just patches of older material, older than billion years on our planet, somewhere around continental plates. At the same time, on continental plates, we have enormous amount of erosion, so we can't even see many craters preserved. Magically, the some craters we can find and reconstructed, which actually happened for one of the biggest event of extinction when the dinosaurs die out. We'll talk about it slightly later. So, how we know about asteroids activity in the beginning of formation of our solar system? Well, there's a lot of evidence from studying other planets, and in particular our moon. From the formation of the moon till modern days, on the moon's surface preserved a lot of these craters, and we can date them, and we can see on chemical composition and so on, and understand the frequency of asteroids, comets attack of the moon and our planet as well. For example, we're already observing the moon for last 40 years, and when the first explorers fly around the moon and photographed it quite nicely, and in modern days the research of the surface of the moon, and when we compare both of these images, we can see the degree and frequency of impacts of the moon today. And roughly we can say from the statistical analysis and so on that back in the day, when there was a heavy bombardment of the moon and our Earth in the beginning, the frequency of big asteroids, comets hitting our Earth and of course the moon and other planets was about 10,000 times more than today. So for example, if we have events happening every million of years, quite significant impact, back in the day it was happening every 100 years. And you can imagine that the evolution or development of the animals on the planet, if there were any at that time, it was quite slow. So you have constant changes of the conditions on the planet, and small bacteria and so on have to survive in the very harsh conditions. But in particular, we see in our record that on our planet we can only judge the mass extinctions and this impact on the animal life or life on our planet only by bigger organisms. The ones can have shells or bodies fossilized and preserved. Therefore, everything smaller, we don't know how it was affected by this impact and what the evolutionary history of them. Nevertheless, we know that today, majority of the animals on our planet that have ever existed there are dead, extinct. It'll be very surprising for you. It seems like the evolution happening and we have more and more diversity and more animals, type of animals on our planet, and actually by number. But it's actually not true, it's just the illusion. In reality, the evolution, yes, happened and the new species come instead of old ones, but the more than 99% of animals that ever been living on our planet are extinct or dead. And by the number as well, or number of the species, it's actually scientists say that it didn't change much. We didn't increase dramatically towards modern days. I mean, the Quaternary period and modern days, evolutionary, we didn't change the number of species. One species just replacing the other, and they're kind of evolving in different directions. For example, we know evolutionary animals developed, and those who are stronger or have adaptation to particular conditions to our planet, they developed and have more chances to survive. But we know we have these events where the big impact happened with our planet, some asteroid coming from within our solar system or even from outside, from this outside shell of our solar system, and that's what's actually was happening in the movie. They discovered that this comet coming from outer shell, outer space of our solar system, which is frozen space, huge space, enormous, this kind of place which outer shell of our solar system connecting us to the space outside of our solar system. So this space is full of frozen comets and other material which from time to time might change its orbit and come towards our sun and therefore towards our Earth. So speaking of this, we can, coming back to the animals and evolution, we can say only for last billion of years what's happened with the life on the planet, and we know that there's at least 5 big events of extinction, mass extinction happen in the last half of the billion of the years, and we know it from looking at the fossils and how they change. And we know that when something happened, big event on the planet, half of the population must extinct. It means that all the animals, all the number of animals should be dead, and so not even any couple should survive, so they cannot reproduce. Or the condition dramatically change on the planet after that event, so they will not reproduce. And usually they die extinct, not just by the actual impact might happen if it's quite a big one, but it's also by the change of condition, temporary change of condition, which might continues or not, but for animals it's not enough and they just die out. So on example of the non-event, impact event 66 million years ago, when the dinosaurs died, everybody knows about it, we will consider that and compare it to the movie event, what they describe when they show in the movie, how it's actually, we can see how closer to the reality. Not just the science behind the comet, how it's going to hit it, but also what's going to happen afterwards and so on. So just keep in mind that these events happening impact all the time on our planet, and recently, last billion of years, last 3 billion years, it's happening more and less frequent. Like scientists explaining it's happening less frequent because our solar system getting more organized. So in the beginning of its formation, it was more chaotic, more material, well, traveling, more impact of bigger bodies, which can cause a lot of debris, which potentially could become asteroids and so on. But with time, the solar system more organized, and planets trapped the satellites they can, and we have less of those events. But nevertheless, there's a constantly impact with our Earth and outer bodies, which coming from outer space. But majority of them are small, and they've been destroyed, discarded just before they even hit our atmosphere. So we have this magnetic and atmosphere field all around us, which protect us very well. And we can say with security that everything that less than 20 meters, it's about like size of a good house. This type of material with everything that coming less than that size, it will be called screen. It will be burnt in high levels of atmosphere before it's even reach stratosphere and so on. So this is how well protected we are. And scientists today, they actually are monitoring all these things. They monitor all these bodies. And if there's some body that's about 100 meters wide, like a big football field or something like that, or more, they can predict and actually even calculated the impact, what is going to fall down, if it's going to crash on the way, and they can have action, maybe for example evacuate people and so on. So these things actually happening, and that because we don't every day talk about that or work with it, it doesn't mean it's not happening. So majority of these objects are quite small. But nevertheless, we know there's a bigger impact, and as I say, in the past it was more common and now less frequent, but still it happens. So in the movie they suggested that this comet appeared from nowhere, and let's talk about how do we know today about these comets, and are they actually all recorded or not, or the difference between asteroid as well. And we have this agency, I think it's the NASA department, which looked at all the objects, and they've been for many years now recording them. So there's a huge catalog of all these asteroids which periodically coming back, or comets. So we have quite a good database. And if there's something appears for astronomers which we don't have in a database, it will be checked quite fast, and eventually, if it's not in the records anywhere, it will be catalogued, studied, and predicted its potential trajectory, so how it's traveling and how important or not it's for our planet, for if it's going to hit us or not. So in this sense, in the movie, they quite okay depicted it, and actually I know that there's a lot of videos in YouTube you can watch. They're talking about that they were working with some actual astronomers and scientists, in particular, for example, these images, picture of this comet actually was taken from real observation. So they were very close to the science in that movie, although this movie is very satiristic, so that's a lot of satire and humor, kind of dark humor, if you say, showing how sometimes absurd the situation can be when scientists trying to say something to politicians trying to work with somebody with the money, and sometimes the politicians or other people can get too much involved into the media appearances and so on, that they forget about the real problem, and it's just absurd how sometimes the real danger could be masked by other problems in this world, in today's world. And actually this movie are quite close in that sense, because even if we think today, we have so much money and sources directed to, for example, pop culture or sports games, Olympic games, and so on, when actual scientists who are looking for the potential asteroids coming towards the Earth, or having the rocket built or some spaceship they can divert, if the comet coming towards us, like in the movie, we don't have money for it, and because of that, it's not happening right now, so we don't want to worry about this. But in reality, if it's gonna happen, and we have like 6 months, like in the movie, there's not enough time actually to build spacecraft to blow up this comet if she'll be like in the movie, very dangerous. And luckily in the movie, it's some kind of potential future in that movie, because they have this interesting technologies. They even fly to other planets. So obviously it's not happening in today's science and engineering development on our planet, but in the movie they do. So even in the movie, they already had like some ships they could send and blow up this comet. In reality, on our planet, we don't have right now, and scientists say we need at least 4 years in advance know about any object coming, and for which we can build a spaceship to send it to the comet or this asteroid. But if something happening like that in the movie, we have only 6 months, so everything that less than 4 years, we couldn't build anything in time. But, well, hopefully it's not gonna happen. But let's talk about this, about happen, not happen. So with the comets, can we kind of predict that they're coming or not? And in reality, in the movie, they showed very well that no, that some comets can come. Well, some comets can return to us, so we know there's some comets coming. Even in the ancient Greek or Roman times, there was a comets observed in the sky, and they've been reported. And sometimes they come back, and sometimes in the Middle Ages or recently, even in the modern days. But some comets can just come from outer space, or not outer space, we call it outer shell of our solar system. And I talked about this in the video about the age of our solar system, when we talked what is actually the age of the solar system, what categorized scientifically and not scientifically. So if you're interested, please watch that video. It's a nice video about that, so you will understand about that. And so comets can, from some reason, come from there. There's different theories what can trigger them. Something happening in that Oort cloud, or something will happen changing the direction, but they might be attracted down towards the center of our solar system, go towards the sun, flip around and be burned, or come back to this Oort cloud. But it's a huge distances, and they might come back, they might not. So with the comets, we don't know much. So it's quite nicely depicted in the movie that it can come, this icy giant, and just come towards us. Of course, that statistically, the probability that it's going to come directly to the trajectory of our Earth and being trained towards our Earth by our gravity field and actually fall down on our Earth, very small. So that's why scientists, well, actually it's not even scientists, this group of people who monitoring all the asteroids and comets, they are not so much concerned about that. That majority of the objects that flying there, they're not hitting tiny little Earth because the space is huge. But in the same time, it can happen. And it did happen before, and we know, and we come back to these poor dinosaurs who die out. And probably if it didn't happen that time 66 million years ago with the dinosaurs, we won't be here. Mammals will not evolve into humans, according to the modern science theory about the evolution. But maybe the dinosaurs will evolve and become sophisticated like us, or maybe even smarter than us. Dinosaurs, it's the type of reptiles. Reptiles on our planet right now that preserved, it's the turtles and crocodiles, all sorts of crocodiles, alligators. So that's the only, well, and the birds, which evolved from dinosaurs as well. So that's the animals today which kind of directly coming from this branch of reptiles. But the rest of them, it's the mammals. And the mammals, after the impact that happened 66 million years ago, we talk about how it's happened and why we know about it. The mammals were small and like less than cat size, and they could hide and they could scavenger on whatever happened, because after impact, the dramatic impact that happened. And I think scientists are suggesting that asteroid that hit the Earth that killed all dinosaurs was about 5 kilometers in diameter or something like that. In the movie, they're suggesting it's about 9 kilometers, so saying from 5 till 10, about 9 kilometer diameter comet. So this comet will be even more destructive than the one that hit the Earth during the dinosaur times. So they're trying to repeat that scenario. That time when the dinosaurs died, we know that the impact happened. At the same time, the whole planet, there was not just the impact and collision, they burned everything on the surface, on the continents. There was a huge wave and a fire coming through everything, and it's created huge crater. And we did magically, I'm saying magically, because it's very hard to preserve something on our Earth's surface. If the asteroid fall down into the ocean, we will not have a record. There's a 50% chance that there will be a record of it, because the ocean crust get recycled all the time, and majority of it younger than the time of the dinosaurs. But we found out the crater around Yucatan area, and you probably want to go and read about it if you're interested. And there's some interesting old wells of the Mayan civilization was studied, and from that people found that actually it's the rim of the crater from this impact, and they dated it, and it's all matching the size and everything. So Yucatan Peninsula crater, it's the one when dinosaurs died, the impact. But in the same time, coming back to the impact, you will have enormous amount of the dirt rocks, pulverized rock coming into the atmosphere. Something will not die during the actual impact from the whole nuclear, millions of bombs, nuclear explosion wave and heat. You will have also this dust, pulverized rock coming into the atmosphere, and it will be mixed and fast transported all around the planet, because we have dramatically active atmosphere. You will have maybe for a year or more this kind of like a nuclear winter, they call it. So there's a lot of dust particles all around in the atmosphere, closing the sunlight, causing the temporary cooling on the planet. Of course, there will be polluted air. The photosynthesis will stop, and if the actual impact might not so much affect the ocean life, that fact about the photosynthesis will affect the ocean life. And that's where we found, after the impact of this dinosaur time 66 million years ago, scientists, that's how they discovered for the mid-20th century or even 70s. Scientists were not sure why dinosaurs disappeared. We know there was a big reptiles, some of them quite sophisticated. They dominated the planet. They have very good relationship. There was a predators, there was a vegetarian ones, as you say, and so on. And they live on our planet, in the oceans, in the sky, on the land. However, in the one moment, we see that they're all disappearing. So there's just gone. There's nothing. Whatever you looked in the strata, on the layers of the rocks, everything above this 66 million years, there's nothing left from the dinosaurs, apart from some of these reptiles, which then evolved into the modern crocodiles and turtles. What's happening? And the scientists have so many theories, so there's numerous theories. I remember studied at university, and we just studied the history of geographical science, and we studied that there's about 40 at least theories were suggested, and they're all different, depends on what happened with the size of the animals. They just kill each other, or they just starved, or the climate change, so there's a lot of different theories. Rats, there was like animals who we evolved evolutionary from, these little mammals. They look kind of like rats, that they eat all the dinosaur eggs. Dinosaurs extinct after that. So one of these theories. Somebody was suggesting the dinosaurs start smoking and they died from the smoking, of course, as a comic relief. Nobody suggested about this impact. And only the geologists from other sides, so not biologists, zoologists, paleontologists who study dinosaurs, suggested it. It came from the different field, from geologists. And the geologists find this thin layer out 2.5, 3 centimeters. And actually, even in New Zealand, we see that as well, very nicely. They find this thin layer of this heavy metal. There's a lot of iridium and other metals, very concentrated metals layer. And in this layer, you see a lot of, in ocean sediments, a lot of just dead animals like plankton and any other fossils. And above it, you see only 10% of the population of the animals that you see below that. And in particular, there's no anything very large, bigger than the cat. There's no dinosaurs above. And it was very striking, very interesting what's happening in that thin layer. And this material presence, iridium and other heavy metals, which are very rare on our planet. And we see this covering all around the planet, everywhere. We find it all over the world. Suggested it must come from somewhere else, so it must come from outer space. Yes, somebody suggested there was a big volcanic eruption around Industan Peninsula, as I understand. There's other evidence that it's actually the impact. When they find this layer, they find this material, so they suggested they looked in all the materials below and above, and puzzle come together, and they start suggesting maybe there was something happened. And they start looking all around the planet, and the scientists from all different places, from South America, from New Zealand, Australia, from Europe and North America, different islands, everywhere we find this layer. And in particular around Caribbean basin, we see more thicker layer, more impacted layer. And so they start looking for the crater. So we have evidence of mass extinction, change of evolution, and then mammals start growing and developing. So there was a quiet period after, and then new animals start developing because you open all these opportunities. There's no predators anymore, there's more land, there's a new type of vegetation start dominating the planet, the flowering trees and so on start developing, which are common now but were not in the past. You see this change shifts, dramatic shifts. But the last piece that put it all together, it was the impact crater. And accidentally, somehow, people did find this Yucatan big crater and confirm its dating and the impact it would have. And it's all coming together like one picture of the puzzle. So this was kind of magical discovery, but this is the one that we can refer to in our more recent history, geological history on our planet, which was dramatic and caused mass extinction, we can refer to in relation to this movie. So let's look closely on what they depict in the movie as an impact. In the movie was that the comet will fall down to the ocean. Yeah, the comet at this size, 9 kilometers, it won't be like destroyed by our atmosphere, as we talked about. And this size, as we say, will have a huge impact actually on our Earth. And we know that one of the more recent comets we have, which fall down on our Earth, it was the Tunguska meteorite that happened in 1908. All people call it Tunguska event, and it's fall down in Siberia, and the size of this meteorite suggested to be quite small, actually just over 20 meters, but the explosion it caused was about 1,000 times more powerful than atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, so it's quite a big thing. And another one, more recent one, was just a little bit smaller, and it kind of exploded in the stratosphere, and the pieces fall down Chelyabinsk in 2013 in Siberia as well. So we know these things happened, and actually have an agency and people who do look at those things, and they can tell us that there's something happening towards us. There's a quite percentage is going to hit us, and they're going to be this size, and what's going to be impact. And they have a plan what to do after it's happened. So we or evacuate people from the city if going to be affected, if it's going to fall down the city, or it's going to cause any tsunami or so on. We have to do something with this meteorite or asteroid to destroy it before it's reached our planet. It's called the National Near-Earth Object Preparedness Strategy Action Plan, NASA initiation, and it's, as I understand, international. Scientists and researchers engineers from around the world are involved. But as I said in the beginning, something big coming like in this movie, we probably not have enough time to build something to deflect it, especially not in the modern economic situation. However, who knows, maybe people are gonna get so scared and not like in the movie, they'll get together, organize the forces of all the countries and do something to protect our precious and the only one Earth we have available for us right now. In the movie, it's 9 kilometers about size. It's definitely gonna hit the Earth if you don't deflect it or destroy it before it reaches the planet. First one you will do probably trying to redirect it, change its trajectory. So you need to just a little bit change its trajectory so it's going past the Earth and just fly by itself freely, whatever it wants to fly. Many of these things actually going towards the sun and they just burn down because they go close to sun and they just evaporate and explode there. However, bad things happen and hopefully nothing like that will come towards us in the near future. Nevertheless, it's interesting to know that even today there's a project, I think it's organized by NASA as well, called DART project, which practicing to direct the spaceship towards the potentially asteroid and crushed it. So right now they're exercising to sending one of this little spacecraft towards the actual satellite of the asteroids. So there's like asteroids traveling with some bits around it, and it will go directly towards this little satellite and trying to explode it. So this is like an exercise to do. I'm surprised because it's a lot of money, but we're actually practicing to do these kind of things. So in the future maybe we can build a ship and help our Earth. So we talked about size, exposure, and what they show in the movie. The show kind of like there was an impact and then they were waiting, so they were obviously in different hemisphere, the actors, maybe not that far, but still there was some time between impact and by the time the wave come towards them, so it's quite obvious, quite okay, quite true. They didn't show what's happened afterwards, of course. Afterwards there will be, when the crater will be formed, dust in the air, as I said, nuclear winter, as we say, so the atmosphere will be blocked out, and after the life on the surface will die. More probably bacteria, of course, will survive, some extremophiles will survive, or some animals that hibernate or hide in the caves and so on, they will survive. And then the ocean will be affected by this nuclear kind of winter for several years, not enough photosynthesis, and of course plankton will be affected by that directly first. And in the ocean, everything related to the plankton, all the chain of ecosystems. In this kind of type of events, of course, the bigger animals, the mammals, and whatever we have on the planet, the bigger than the rat, more probable will be extinct, and it's harder for them to survive any kind of this type of changes than for smaller, more adaptable type of animals who can survive. But if at least more than 50% of the species on the planet will be affected, and probably will after the 9-kilometer comet will hit us, it will be another mass extinction. And then there will be a period when it will be a little bit quiet, the planet will recover, atmosphere will clear up, waters clear up, fires will burn down, cool down, ashes will fertilize the soil, and the new plants will start evolving, new animals, bacteria will start slowly repopulating the Earth. And as I say, in the last 500 million of the years, we've seen it happen at least 5 times. We have dramatic mass extinction. I have the video about mass extinction when I talked about this from that point of view. And we know in particular this case 66 million ago I just talked about, when the dinosaurs died. If you think about that movie and the probabilities that something like that can happen, it's quite plausible. And the way they show actually how scientists discovered it, we were very happy, and then they were not so happy because they calculated coming towards us, and then they were even less happy when they figure out that resistance there from politicians and even people on the planet itself. It's kind of more or less could be the truth as well. Being in a science world, you understand it's it's exactly the same like anywhere else. There's a different people in the science world, and today it's very commercialized as well, like everything else, and same in politics. So I don't think there's a quite far away this movie from the reality, but I'm just here to talk about this interesting thing, what's gonna happen if we have this impact, if we have this asteroid or comet falling on our planet. And we will have another videos when we talked about our geological record and what it tells us about these events in the past. But as I say briefly, yes, these events happened in the past and they affected the life, and we are here because these events happened in the past and they're now happening less frequent. But it doesn't mean if it's happening now every millions or so, big events more than hundreds of million years, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen even tomorrow. Not going to happen even in the next couple years. Most of it being already recorded and observed in our observable solar system, and we have a big catalog in 10-20 years recording all the asteroids that are traveling and some comets, and know what is traveling where and potentially what could be dangerous, what is not. Now we do have soon some visitors coming. For example, the Apophis asteroid, potentially gonna cause some destruction on our Earth. Its diameter 370 meters, supposedly, today calculations. It was discovered in December 2004, and there was a short-term panic among the scientists, and it was suggested that 1 in 20 chances that it will hit the Earth in 2029. So we're waiting for 2029. For today, scientists suggested that there will be no impact on Earth in 2029. There was even plan was suggested how to maybe crush it or redirect it away from our Earth. But now we know it's gonna travel through, and it might cause some maybe distractions of the satellites and so. However, for today it's not as dangerous as was suggested. Also, it was suggested to be back in 2036. There was a suggestion that if he will pass close enough to our Earth in 2029, he will be back, can attract to this trajectory and be back towards our Earth in 2036, and will have a future impact, which was even scarier. However, then calculations were done, and new observations show that it's not going to be any impact or danger for our Earth. And talking about the era of hundreds of kilometers to kilometers itself, so the uncertainty of this approach in 2029 was so well studied, so it's reduced from this hundreds kilometers, question to a couple of kilometers. And for today, it's not as dangerous for us, so people are not afraid of it, but we can just wait and see what can happen that time. So this is one of the closest and studied future potentially impact quite big asteroid coming towards us, 370 meters. But of course, what's shown in the movie about this comet and this unknown Oort cloud, space bodies can just come any point in any direction towards us, towards the Earth. That's quite plausible. Therefore, we just have to hope that the humanity getting more organized in terms of looking after the short-term satisfaction on this planet to the long-term. We having only one home now, and we're intelligent. If we can build the bombs to destroy ourselves, why we cannot build the bombs to protect ourselves from these outer space objects? I hope you enjoyed this little discussion about that movie, and of course I know I didn't talk much about the movie, but I talked about this question, if there is this impact can happen, what can happen, and what the geological history shows, if it's happened in the past. In the future, if there's a good interest, I can talk about this extinction, dinosaur times, and more about extinctions on our planet, and what geology, paleontology tell us about this. Just stay with me, subscribe to my channel, and I hope you like watching my videos.